Welcome to Beyond the Chutes is presented by ParaSight Systems. Today is January 2nd, 2024, and I'm your host, Doug Simcox, and I hope that you're enjoying the first days of 2024. Now, this episode we're going to be listening to today was recorded on December 5th in Brevard, New York. BTC was on the road, and this episode is part of what we are calling the Rawhide Ranch recordings. And sitting at the table with me was my co-host, Mr. Sam Swearingen, a saddle bronc rider, winning the North America Rodeo Commission Championship 2 times, a stock contractor, a rodeo coach, a mentor, and an all-around guide. Now, around the 20-minute mark, you're going to hear Mr. Pat Tooley's knock on the door. His episode will be one of our next Rawhide Ranch recordings to be released. So Sam and I are talking about the events of rodeo, the rules, the regulations, how to score, things to watch for, maybe chute procedures, everything from barriers to mark out rules to setting your saddle right and measuring your bronc rein properly. We hope that you enjoy. I wanted to take just a moment and let's run down through the events and talk about some of the rules and some of the best ways to score, and some various things about the events. So let's start with the Bareback Bronc Riding. As an announcer, I always said this was the most wild and rigorous event, the hardest on the body. And talk a little bit about, if you would, Sam, the bronc is loaded in the chute, no halter like in the bronc riding. And my job as a competitor is to get my bareback bronc riding rigging on. So what's my chute protocol typically?
Well, typically you would set your rigging down on the horse and hook your cinch, or get someone to hook your cinch, and which is very simple. They have what they call a chute hook. You just reach through and grab it and pull it over. It's usually a light metal, real heavy wire or something of that nature. And some horses do have halters on, Doug.
Oh, they do. Broncs do. Okay.
Just depends on their bucking style. Sometimes if they put it on a bareback horse, it's usually pretty loose and kind of smacks them in the nose and makes them set up a little better. Really? Not every horse, probably 30% will put a halter on them.
Okay.
But the most important part about bareback rigging is when you pull your rigging, you want to make sure it's square on your back and sucks down the same. Sucks down here. I'm going, okay, pulls down squarely on his back. So usually you'll pull it from both sides at the same time.
Okay.
And you want to pull it tight. Some of the contractors would gripe and complain back in the day that it's too tight, it's too tight. I always had the theory, I want it there. If you hang up, it's going to keep you there. Okay. Hang up, which be your hand stuck in the rigging.
Okay.
And you're bucked off. And it's much better on the animal if it's tight on their back than underneath
moving around.
And
Okay.
So.
Okay.
But yeah, it's fairly simple, and the flank man will come put the flank on, and you put your hand, which in a handhold rigging, which is about like a suitcase handle, but all designed to take rigorous punishment. It's holding your weight in there, plus the force of the horse bucking. So it's pretty rawhide handle. It gives just a smidget, just enough to keep it from ripping your arm off.
Okay. Okay. Yeah.
And the glove fits in there very, very snugly. They have what they call a bind, and they have changed so much in the last 5 years. Now the bind is more in the front and the back of the rigging than on the. It used to be along the calluses of your hands.
Yeah.
Which would hold you in there. Now it's more on the front and back. They have a big nub at the back of their glove that sticks out about a half an inch.
Oh, really?
And so when they do it, they'll really put their hand forward to get that nub in there. And when they lock it down, it's in there.
Okay. So, and it's in there. I mean, you're
Yeah, you're tied in there basically.
Yeah.
Now, it helps them hang on to the horse, but if you're not doing your basics right and you get bucked off, you are in trouble.
Yeah.
So it locks you in there, and to unlock it, you really got to get your elbow forward. So really push it forward, that'll pop that back of that bind out, and then your hand's right free, and it's really a great design compared to the other way of doing it where the calluses were and the whole way up through your hand. At least you can get out of this a lot quicker.
Okay. And grip is important how?
Well, the grip isn't as important as it used to be.
Okay.
Because you're kind of locked in there. But your arm has to be strong.
Yeah.
Not so much for the grip, but for the strength of taking the punishment of the horse.
Okay.
Yeah.
And for protective measures or injury measures or whatever, you see a lot of tape around the wrist, up the arm.
What they do now, they used to, bareback riders used to take and tape it in an X cross, bend their elbow and put it in an X so they can't get their arm straight. But with Dalen riding, I learned they make a mold of their arm, send it somewhere, and they make a regular...
Like a cast?
Like a cast, but it's fiberglass that fits to their arm and will keep it in a bent fashion, and they just tape that on. Okay. And it's a lot quicker and easier on their body because the tape's going to stretch or break if it's brutal. This has a little bit of flexibility, and it moves with the animal. And when he said, I got to get a thing for my arm, and was explaining to me, I never knew anything about it.
Wow. Okay.
So that's one of the things that's changed. And it has allowed the bareback riders to ride so much better.
And reduces injury?
Yes.
Okay. Because you're not hyperextending your arm?
Correct.
Okay. Now, basics of rodeo. Before I go there, basics of bareback bronc riding, I should say. You also notice a lot of these guys are wearing the neck collar that goes around behind them, supports the back of their head, and always with, everybody's riding it right now with a flak jacket or with a vest, rodeo vest, right? Protective vest. Did Dalen ride with the neck guards?
He did.
Okay.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah. I got to imagine whiplash has got to be a thing, huh?
I had it happen to me in the bronc riding where I seen stars while I was on their back.
While you were on the back.
And in the bareback riding, it's got to happen all the time. I seen Dalen get knocked out once while he was riding.
Yeah.
And, whiplash is a huge thing.
Okay. No helmets, still riding with cowboy hats.
Still with cowboy hats, and I think that's the right way to go. There is no, unless somebody could show me different, I'd be open-minded to it. But the weight of that helmet with that kind of jerking on their neck and their, would just, I don't think you could do it.
Okay. So I'm on the back of the bronc. I've got my hand in the rigging. I've got my bind set. I'm literally locked in. Now I'm sitting, straddling the horse, right? Sitting on him in the sitting position. What do I do next?
Well, walk your hand up to the rigging as far as you can get. You try to get up over top of the rigging.
With your butt?
Okay. And that way you can stay close to the animal. Yeah. Most guys bend their knees up. This is something that's, it was around when I was riding quite a bit. They used to start on the slats and then swing and spur the horse out that way, which is a rule, the mark-out rule.
Mark-out rule.
You have to have your feet in front of the horse's shoulders on the first jump out.
In contact.
Yeah. And the way they do it now is they bend their knees up, and as that horse moves, they just reach down and put their feet over their horse's shoulder. And the idea of that is to pull you down in the rigging so the horse doesn't run away from you, leaving there and bucking.
Okay. And the mark-out rule, if I fail to have my feet in that position on that first jump out?
Yeah. Nothing else matters.
Disqualified.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. And And after that, the spurring motion. What's the official? And let me back up. The Pro Rodeo official. Let's say there's 2 Pro Rodeo officials. Half of the score comes from the bronc, just like in the bull riding. Half of the score comes from the competitor, the cowboy, the rodeo athlete.
Yes.
Right? And the judge is going to be looking for what from the bronc?
How high he kicks is the main thing.
Mm-hmm.
How well he gets off the ground with the front end.
Mm-hmm.
And if he has any change of direction.
Mm-hmm.
That means if he moves to the left or right through that, more difficult to ride. They go on difficulty to ride.
Okay.
I say that, but in the same token, if you have one that goes straight away and just flat jumps and kicks and isn't that difficult, and you can shine your ride up, usually you will win compared to somebody that rides one that is hard to ride.
That is hard to ride. And the scoring then, they're looking at the spurring motion of the cowboy, the body position, how well he or she remains in control.
Very much. The spurring motion is from the horse's shoulders back to the rigging.
To the rigging.
You want to bring your feet from the horse's shoulders back to the rigging. And you want your feet to be in the horse's shoulders before he hits the ground. Okay. So that means you're ahead of the horse, you're in control. You don't want somebody that is counting on their bind and laying off to the side to lock them in where one leg will spur better than the other. You want them to, when that horse hits the ground, they want to be tucked with their chin down, feet up over the point of the horse's shoulders, and when it jumps up, just spur back to the rigging and do it over again in control, as best as you can be in control in this event. But staying square in the horse's back really helps the point-wise.
Okay. And once the whistle blows, my job is to get back up to the rigging, right? The pickup men are going to be coming up beside me.
Yep.
And my job is to, number one, get up in a safe position so I'm good and balanced and be able to work my hand out of the rigging.
Yes. And now it's basically you don't have to work your hand out near as much as you used to if you just got to get that bind cracked from the back. So there is some guys it takes longer than others, but usually if a horse is still bucking, you can pop that bind.
Okay.
They come in and take the flank off right away first now most of the time, and it can be harder to get that bind because the kick isn't as high after that.
I see. To help break that bind. So a couple terms we're going to be hearing. You're going to hear them say, "Oh, he missed him out," which means didn't have his feet in position.
Correct.
That first jump. And the way the rule reads, once that horse turns and the feet hit, his front feet hit the ground the very first time after he leaves the chutes, the cowboy's feet have to be up in contact with the horse's shoulder. If he drops one, if they aren't quite high enough, the Pro Rodeo official is going to mark him out or miss him out.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah. And then it's a no score.
Yeah.
And everything's not. The next thing is you can't touch the horse or yourself with your free hand.
Okay. Just like the bull riding.
Just like the bull riding.
Okay.
Yeah.
And 8 seconds.
8 seconds.
Okay. And then one of the other terms is going to be the horse beat him out, which means?
Well, usually means he missed him out because the horse could have dropped down and ducked out from underneath him, or else they just wasn't as fast as the horse was. You know? They were a little behind. And that doesn't happen too often at this level that you're going to see at the NFR. But it still happens, you know. And even if a horse really rears out of there, you still have to have him.
Yeah.
You know, unless he follows you somehow. You hit the chute gate, the back of the chute, or something like that, and they can say, okay, it was a free roll.
Okay.
Or if the animal stalls or doesn't come out clean.
Okay.
They passed a rule a couple years ago, which I think is smart. If one turns out backwards, it's an automatic re-ride.
Okay.
And you can either take it or not. And yeah, I flanked a horse for Sean Graham at the Dodge Circuit Finals. Tim O'Connell had. I never seen the horse before. Sean wasn't there. I get a phone call about 5 minutes before. Can you go flank the horse? And, well, what's he take? What's he do? You know, just flank him. And the horse turned out backwards. And you can't flank him because usually the flank goes around the rider's neck, so you let go of it.
Okay.
And he didn't get a re-ride.
Oh, wow.
I don't know if they missed him out or whatever, but I bet you dollars to donuts that's where that rule came from.
Okay.
It's an automatic re-ride. It's a good rule.
Yeah, yeah, okay. And in terms, and this is going to apply to the bronc riding, the saddle bronc riding as well, the horse was heavy or a lot of drop?
Yeah. Heavy usually means is going forward. When they kick, they're not setting up and bucking kind of in the same spot. They're moving forward quite a bit, and that's a lot of jerk on the rider's arms, and it's hard to stay in control because once they get your chin back, they kind of have their way with you.
And then a perfect ride is we're watching, wasn't that long ago, the Garrett brothers showed up and hung off the side looking at the lights.
Yeah.
Still seeing as much of that these days?
No, hardly at all.
Okay.
You know, that was a style 30 years ago that really took off and ran for a little bit because it could look wild and crazy and outstanding riders, you know, very athletic wrestling background. But they have gone away from that because the horses today are so strong that it's very difficult to do that. And now they sit more square, more Clint Corey style that I would call it. Kenny Phillips sit in the middle and lift the horses, because if you don't, that horse that knocked Dalen out, Kenny was there that day and he gave him some advice. He said, you know, when they're that strong, and Dalen went at him so hard all the time that his feet would be back when he said, you got to take short strokes on that horse and keep in control when they're that strong until the end. And he said they'll remember the last 3 jumps. If you're really spurring them then, that's when you'll get your points.
Okay.
They might forget about the first 3, but the
Yeah.
last 3 they'll remember.
I understand. Okay. And then, did we talk drop?
No. Drop is when a horse gets out there and hangs in the air and then throws that front end down. And you can see ones that are just bucking, but you can really tell when one's dropping that front end. Really drops it out from underneath them.
Okay.
And leaves them hanging.
Adds a lot to degree of difficulty. You're going to get credit for it?
You should, yes.
Okay. Judges will pick that up.
Yeah.
Okay. And we got the 15 best riders in the world going to be there opening night and for the 10-day run. What kind of scores should we see? And I know they have different pens depending on the night. Okay. So the rough night, which is typically the second night, I think, and I know it alternates.
Yeah, they call that the eliminator pen.
Okay.
And it does eliminate a lot of guys because these are the horses that the guys don't want to get on. They don't, they're not rider friendly at all. They're eliminators. They'll take you out of it. That is typically the highest marked rides of the weekend and the lowest marked rides, because you can't make the spur ride on some of those horses to get the high marking. Yeah. There's 1 or 2 guys that can make a great spur ride on a very difficult horse, so they might be the echelon of scores.
Okay.
But also you'll see in the 70s and like that because they were just hanging on to get there, save their life.
Okay. And while there are 10 rounds, and this is true of all the events we're going to be talking about, while there are 10 rounds, certainly I want a go-round check, but I'm also riding for what's called the average, the cumulative score over those 10 rounds. And that pays big money if I win the NFR average.
Yeah, and that's something that you shouldn't look at, in my opinion, because you can look ahead and forget about what you have at hand.
Okay.
But it will take care of itself if you take care of your horses.
Yeah. And what kind of, then they have the TV pen, which are the ones where the guys get to really show off. They fit well.
Yeah, these are what they call the rider-friendly horses that just jump and kick just what you want, making, 23, 24 points per ride. I don't know if they give out many 25s, but today's world they could, because these guys are so incredibly talented.
So
they do.
We're going to see scores primarily in the 80s?
80s and 90s. There'll be some low 90s because,
okay.
If one really sets up and shows off, high 80s, low 90s.
Low 90s, okay. So let's shift to, let's say in the horse ridings. Let's go to saddle bronc riding. All the same rules apply. 8 seconds, ride with one hand, but now instead of being locked into a rigging, I've got a hold of a bronc rein. So set me up in the chute. They run the horse in, may or may not have a halter on based on the horse that comes in, but my job's to make sure it's got a halter before he leaves the bucking chute.
Yeah, usually they come in without a halter.
Okay.
You get a halter from the stock contractor, and it has their brand on the halter, and you put your rein on it and put it on the horse. Sometimes that's a challenge, especially on young horses. There won't be any of those there. But then you have to put your saddle on, and there's a procedure that I always went through. When it was time to get the halter on, I'd take the saddle and I'd set it on his back, standing up, and then just ease it down on him. Move slow without, all these horses are broncs, and the slower you go, the more confident it is for them and you, because they just feel more at ease. And pulled it down the same way. 2 people, not everybody does, but a person on each side just kind of pulling it down square on their back. The hardest thing is to, well, in the old days, the hardest thing was to, if it was a huge horse, keep it up where when the horse left there, the saddle wouldn't slide back. If the saddle slides back, everything tightens up and you can't get to the front end very good.
I see.
So you want it tight enough and to hold it up over that where you set it on the horse so it'll stay there. You measure your stirrup length over the horse's neck, about a half a stirrup, a quarter of a stirrup over. So when you mark them out, back to the bareback riding thing, you're not past the horse's neck. You make a usable mark out to pull you down into that saddle.
I see. Okay. And after I get my saddle set, and tighter versus looser based on the horse?
Yes. Back cinch.
Back cinch.
I always pulled my front cinch tight. Some contractors didn't like that. Jim Zinger was the most vocal one about it.
Was it?
And he had the monsters. You needed it. But I always considered the bigger the horse, the looser the back cinch. And if it was a smaller horse that didn't have a lot of power, I might put a little more in them to help me get that action. The theory behind there is if that horse is big and it hits the ground, that saddle will pick up a little bit, let some of that power go somewhere, and it go between the horse and the saddle. If everything's tight, it's like tied onto a rock that hits the ground. Ooh.
Okay.
But if it moves a little bit, it makes it a little easier.
So, got your saddle set, Sam. Now, talk about measuring the bronc rein. We're going to see these guys. They're in the chutes. They got somebody on the head.
Yeah, they'll have somebody on the head holding the heads straight with the neck so it's not bent over sideways so that it stays right in there. And then you'll see the contestant will take the buck rein and pull it back, and most of the time stick his thumb out and get what they call an average. That's what they think the horse takes. Now, today's world, it's a little different. When the average was normal, just your hand and your thumb stuck out. A lot of these horses now, you'll see them take and give them a double average. It'll be their other hand and thumb stuck out. And it's getting to that breeding program that it's different. And it takes away some of the degree of difficulty. The lower the horse's head, the easier it is to ride them.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. And how do I know how much rein to give them? And what happens first off if I don't give them enough rein?
If you don't give them enough rein, it's usually out the back. It's kind of the opposite of what everybody would think. You think it's over the front. Well, to go over the front, you got to be pulling.
I see.
And if you give them too much rein, you're trying to get it tight, so you're going up over the front usually. So you're lifting or pulling, trying to get the slack out of the rein. And the back, they'll jerk you forward and then sling you backwards.
How do I know how much rein to give them?
Well, the contestants know, especially every horse that's at the NFR. They've got a book on them. They know what to do. Does that always mean it's right? Not always, but 90% of the time they're close. They'll ask if they've never been on the horse before. What do you give them? And ask the contractor even. Mm-hmm.
Okay. And then you're sitting on them. You got what's your procedure at that point? You've climbed over. You've quietly dropped on.
Yes. Well, before that, when I first climb over, I'll step my foot in the horse's in the saddle.
Okay.
And just put a little weight on it. Let them know. Okay, here I come.
Okay.
Nothing crazy. You just put a little weight in there. Here I come. You sit down, and then I'll get my stirrups. And I want to do it myself because somebody comes and stick their hand in trying to help you, and that scares the horse. So we want to get the stirrups. I did it myself, and then you get your feet in the right position to mark them out.
Okay, and pull them back to the cinch. Typically, what are we going to see in the chute this year?
Yeah, I always pulled them back to the cinch area a little bit behind. I wanted to pull them back so I had a little pressure on them to help me go forward.
Okay,
and some people, I'm noticing, they get way back. I don't know how you would. Where's the way back? It's their style, and that's okay. I would go typically past the cinch a little bit, and then it was easier to mark them out for me.
Then how are you handling your rein? The horse's head is up before you nod your head.
Yeah. You want to keep some tension on the rein. Okay. Or at least as soon as they move, get some tension to help you stay down in the saddle. And it's not a pulling motion. The physics of it, if you pull on your rein, it's going to throw you over the front. If you lift on the rein and lift it up, it should put you down in the saddle.
I see. So lift, like taking a weight, free arm, free-handed, for our listeners. So if my arm is extended out in front of me and I put 5 pounds of weight on it, I'm lifting through my shoulder more than I'm lifting to pull back. I'm not pulling back like I'm pulling on a rope.
No.
I'm lifting it up in the air.
Correct. And, yeah, you want to lift with your shoulder. Some people elbow out. On really nice horses, I would get pictures with my elbow out because it was easy to do, but rank ones, I wanted my elbow in and lift towards my left ear. I rode right-handed to put you down square into the saddle.
I see. And then as you're lifting, is that, so with your elbow in, you're flexing your arm up, your hand up?
Correct. And I say elbow in, it's just more across the body.
I see.
It's really not in. And
okay.
When I teach the young guys, I say elbow in, and they'll be like you just did.
Yeah.
No, that's not. It's across the body with a fluid motion.
Right. Did you want the rein always in contact with the Bronc's neck, if possible?
If possible.
Okay. And spurring motion, so from the back of the saddle to the front. First off, we got to get out on that first jump, mark out rule.
Yeah, mark out rule's the same. Feet have to be over the horse's shoulder in contact. When he hits the ground, the same rules. If one turns out backwards, if one stalls, you'll see now they have a back judge at these rodeos, these bigger rodeos, which is such a great idea because the judges out front can't see if the horse follows them, and that back judge can say, "Oh, he followed him; he gets a free roll."
Okay, okay. And then the spur in motion from the very first time he puts those front feet on the arena floor, I've got my feet up in position. I'm held in position, and then we go from there.
Yeah, if your feet are up in position where you marked them out, then you want to do that same scenario over till the 8 seconds.
Okay.
Back from the back of the saddle to the up above the neck. Same thing. Easy to say, hard to do.
Hard to do. Spur in motion. So, but it may come all the way up by my seat of my saddle when that horse is breaking over.
Yeah, and that's not a good day.
Not. You don't want to sit on a spur, do you?
No, you don't want to sit on a spur or a foot or anything. When they're coming back up over the back of that saddle, there's a lot of things that can happen. You can definitely sit on a foot, and it'll 90% of the time throw you right out of there. Mm-hmm. Or even if not, as you're going forward, you're catching that saddle and it's slowing you down.
I see.
So
I see. And
either the horse has an extremely lot of drop or your saddle's not just right. And it's such a fine line adjusting these saddles to get them just right.
Okay. And when you say adjusting them, the binds and how much pressure is on your legs when they go back?
Yeah, they got 2 sets of binds on these saddles, front bind and what they call quarter bind, which is under the seat, that shortens up your stirrup stroke with the quarter bind, and the front bind makes it tighter for your going forward to the front of the horse.
Okay.
Too tight, though, and you're bound up and you can't get there. Too loose, and you're going back over the back of your saddle.
So when I get behind on a bronc, one of these NFR broncs?
Big trouble.
Big trouble.
Yeah.
Hard to pick back up.
Yeah, unless you're really... It's very difficult. When they're bucking that hard, you can almost see it. When they're bucking that hard, it's so hard to catch back up.
Yeah. So riding a horse like that, at this caliber we're going to see Thursday night, riding horses like this, spur ride makes it easier or harder?
Spur ride's the only way to do it.
The only way?
The only way, because if you don't do it, you're going to get bucked off this caliber horse.
Okay. It helps take the power away. You're just in rhythm.
It makes everything easier.
Okay.
Everything.
Okay.
And I say you're not going to ride them. They do hang on to something like that. You're not going to place. The one rule that's different in the bareback riding and saddle bronc riding is you're supposed to use dry rosin on your saddle, and only dry rosin. I think it is a thing of the past. Yeah. But that's a rule.
But when you rode, it was dry rosin, like a pitcher uses out on the mound.
Right. I'm not saying that's all I ever used, but that was the rule.
That was the official, that's all I ever used.
Yeah. Do as I say.
The pens, right? The eliminator pen. Mm-hmm. Hard to ride, hard to track. Going to really test these guys. Good ride's going to be worth what?
It'll be just like the bareback ride.
Great
rides, 90 plus, and there will be some of those.
Okay.
And there will be some 60s probably, because these horses will be so out of line, so hard to get there on, that they can't spur them, Mm-hmm. And a few guys will make the whistle just by try.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And TV pen, same as the broncs, barebacks?
Yeah. The TV pens are what you go to bed for and wake up in the morning dreaming of.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what kind of scores? And they usually place out of the 15, is it 6 places each round?
Yes.
What had I better count on being night after night to be in the money point-wise?
I would say probably bottom of the pay window would be 85.
85 will be the bottom.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. So let's talk a little bit, while we're on rough stock, talk a little bit about the draw, Sam. I know there's all kinds of concepts here, and I know it depends on the rules that are followed. The NFR is put on by the PRCA, Professional Rodeo Cowboys Association. So talk a little bit about what you know about how they draw.
Well, at the NFR, they have 5 pens of horses. The horses will go twice unless they're in the re-ride pen, and they'll only go once. But they are set to the way they buck. They try to make it as even as possible. At a regular rodeo, the pens are set up. You can set your pens in the PRCA to a certain degree, and then you can feature so many animals too that have to go. So the computer, when they're drawn out in Colorado Springs, those ones will have to go in the draw and come out. And that's all done in the PRCA through Colorado Springs, the association. You send a list of horses in, which ones you want on which day, and which ones you feature, and they're drawn there. So the contestants can go online and see what they got ahead of time, if they want to come or not.
Okay. All right. And all the broncs, and we're talking broncs, and all the rough stock riding, all drawn at random by the Pro Rodeo officials, right?
Yes, at any rodeo, whether it's PRCA, IPRA, the rodeo official, well, Colorado Springs does it computerized, so
yeah.
I don't, the rodeo officials aren't there, that's for sure.
Okay.
But at other rodeos, they'll go in and draw it ahead of time. And it used to be, in my day, they drew the whole weekend before it went. Now they've got a little smarter in case something doesn't go, or for a reason, they draw each day, most associations, and you can put that animal back in instead of bringing them for no reason.
Okay. All right, Sam, that wraps up the horse riding. Let's talk about, as long as we're on rough stock riding, let's talk about the bull riding if we can. So we've covered a lot of this in some of our PVR events and some of our earlier Part 1 and Part 2 rodeo terms. But just a reminder so everybody can hear it here, 8 seconds for a bull ride. Let me make sure I can get this. One hand in the bull rope. Cannot touch yourself or the bull with your free arm. If you do, you're going to be disqualified.
Correct.
Going to be judged based on half the score again from the bull, how well the bull how well the bull bucks, might spin, difficulties that are thrown at the cowboy, and then half of the score from the cowboy. And I know there's kind of a contradiction as these guys watch, especially when you watch somebody like Dalen. And we're going to see cowboys at the NFR that are going to be doing this. So the more in control I am, the higher I'm marked.
Correct.
Yet if I open up and expose myself by spurring with a foot, that's really increasing the probability of me being bucked off. But they still like that because they're like, okay, you expose yourself, it's worth more points.
Yeah, you expose yourself, you're more in control. Sometimes it's out of necessity, but spurring one should get you extra points and quite a bit extra.
Okay. And chute procedure, we've talked about this. You're going to put your rope on. They're going to run the bull in. The flank strap will be put on by the flankman, the contractor that owns the bull.
Correct.
Somebody's going to help me hook my bull rope, get it, and I might adjust my bull rope, that knot that allows it to decrease or increase the diameter of the rope.
Yeah, there's a knot on the rope that you make, and it forms a circle or to slide the end of the rope through, and then you pull it tight around the bull, and that adjusts to the size of the bull.
Yeah.
If there isn't, basically like the horse riding, you can't touch the bull or yourself, and there is a rule that you cannot have your knot leaving the chute.
Cannot what?
Have your knot. So some people, and it doesn't happen that much now, but if they set that knot so that they can catch it leaving the chute
with their spur,
and pull them down into the bull, that's considered cheating.
Okay, you're going to be disqualified.
Pardon?
In that case, you're going to be disqualified.
Right. Now, you can catch it out in the arena as you're riding.
Okay.
And some people do.
Okay.
But, yeah, that's a rule that a lot of people don't know about, that you can be disqualified for catching having your knots before you leave the chute. So your spoolers in the rope before you leave the chute.
Okay. And coming up for the NFR, and we're going to be talking about this, all the cowboys we are going to see wearing helmets and of course vests.
Probably not all wearing helmets.
Okay.
Most of them, I would imagine. But there will be some people that haven't done it from a young age and don't want to do it and fight it, which You know, I understand why they don't, but I don't understand why they don't.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They can tell me all day long, well, I'm not used to it and the weight and all that. Well, I get that, but your life's a little more important than that.
Yeah.
So.
Okay. And like the horse ridings, the bulls are drawn at random. Pens are set. The PRCA for the NFR is going to be drawing them.
Correct. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Anything else on bull riding before we move to the timed events?
No, I think the only thing, like if one stumbles or goes down, they can get a re-ride, hits the chute leaving there. It's kind of all like the horses. If they follow themselves, you get a re-ride.
Okay.
There.
Okay. And scores now, and I'm moving too fast here, but scores, again, you're going to have the eliminator pen, and you're going to have the TV pen. So, eliminator pen, what's going to make a bull go into the eliminator pen? What's that bull probably going to be doing?
They probably don't know what he's going to be doing.
Okay.
That's kind of the thing. They'll do whatever it takes to get them off their back.
Okay.
They might turn back, spin one way, and if you're still there, jump out, go the other way, leap, duck around a corner. You know, they want to shake you.
They want to shake you. Okay. And for the TV pen, the good watching, like we're seeing in the PBR, those kind of bulls that, you know, the nice to rides. Is that a good way to put them?
Well, no, they won't be of that caliber for the TV pen.
Okay.
You know, they'll be a notch down from what you see in the PBR.
Okay.
Definitely won't be what you see in the short go of the PBR.
Right.
Now, that would be in the eliminator pen.
That would be, right?
Bucking bulls.
Okay.
Yeah.
And if I ride a rank bucking bull, hard to ride, we use the word rank, hard to ride, eliminator, meaning to eliminate me from this go-round win, what am I going to get scored?
Well, it's kind of like the horse riding. If it looks good and you sit in the middle and stuff, you're going to be in the 90s.
Okay.
And if not, if you're hanging off to the side when the whistle blows, it's going to drop you astronomically. And the same way with the horses. It's hard to get there, and sometimes you just do whatever it takes to get there. And usually, you know, if they ride 4 bulls in a rank pen, that's quite a few. Sometimes they ride 1, sometimes they ride 6, but 4 is quite a few in a rank pen.
Okay, all right.
Or the eliminators.
Eliminators, and then the TV pen, the nice watching, the show off stuff. What we see for average scores there?
Mid 80s to low 90s.
Okay.
A lot depends on the ROB, which they call rider over bull.
Yeah.
And sometimes it can get pretty good if they're just what they want into their hand where they can show off.
You bet.
Spurring them.
And spurring. So when Sam's talking about riding into your hand, remember, if I'm a left-handed bull rider and the bull spins to the left, that's called into my hand. He's spinning in my direction. And typically you'll watch these cowboys in that that left-hand spinning bull, you'll watch the bull rider's right leg open up, and you'll see a lot of spurring action as that bull comes around. Do we cover that right, Sam?
I think so.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. So let's go to the timed event, and we're going to cover the steer wrestling. We're going to talk team roping. We're going to talk tie down roping, that sort of thing. What's unique about the timed event draw? Still drawn at random.
Correct.
For the competitors. What else do we need to know about the draw?
Well, the big difference with the timed event draw, I think, in pretty much every association is everything has to go once before anything goes twice.
Okay.
And if it's turned out and drawn, that's considered gone.
Okay.
You know, it's considered run.
Still used. Okay.
Right.
Okay.
Even though it wasn't,
okay,
it's still considered used.
Okay.
And places like the finals and things like that, all PRC rodeos have extras, but at the finals they have to, after the rodeo's over and things are shut down, they run the extra to get a trip on them, just like they were in the draw.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
It'll be, they have somebody come in just to run the extras.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. And that'll ensure that everything gets run through, and then it all starts again the next, like at a regular rodeo. Let's say I have 15 calves in my pen. I've got 10 calf ropers.
Right.
Friday night, we're going to run 10. The next day, in the next performance, we got to run the last 5 first.
Correct.
Right? Then we put all 15 back into the pen?
No.
No.
You run the next 5 first.
Yeah.
And then you put the other 10 in that went yesterday.
Okay.
That way you're not running 2 head the same day.
That makes sense. That makes sense. So my pot's always 15, if you will.
Correct.
And then it just, again, until everything runs the same numbers, that batch is carried over to the next day at a normal rodeo.
Right. At a rodeo where there's less than 15 guys a performance.
You bet.
Now, some of the big rodeos, they might have 100 head of cattle, and all 100 have to go before you go back again for the next one.
Okay. All right. So let's go to the first timed event. And this typically will follow the bareback riding, I believe, in the order of events, to the steer wrestling, the big men of rodeo.
Correct.
And in previous episodes, we had a long conversation with Dale Yerrigan. He shared a lot of the basics and a lot of the intricacies of it. But just real quickly, we got a barrier, right? All timed events, whether it's team roping, tie down, calf roping, steer wrestling, we have a barrier that is used. Its main intention is to give a head start to the steer or the calf.
Correct. And it's kind of like, it's very difficult to explain. For somebody that's not around it, it's even hard to see how it works when you're around it. They have a necklace that goes around the calf or the steer's neck, and it's tied to another rope that goes down to a pin that goes inside a ring on the chute gate. Then they pull the rope across the front of the horse and put that pin in that hooks to that neck rope and to a little eyelet, which they call the tail.
Okay.
The pigtail.
Yeah.
And that's about 6 inches long.
Okay.
It's tied to the long rope across in front of the horse.
In front of the horse.
Right.
Okay.
So the idea is it has a little light, like kite string or maybe meat packing string that's very light, tied on to the calf or the steer, around the calf or steer's neck, that when it gets out, according to the length of the arena in the box, the depth of the box, say there's a 15-foot score, that means the steer gets out 15 foot in front of the horse.
Okay.
So that rope around their neck will be 15 foot long. And if it breaks the string off the steer, it pulls that pin, and he got out of the barrier. He's good.
He's good.
Now, if the horse goes before that string breaks off the steer's neck, the horse breaks it at the pigtail, and it just falls onto the ground. Now, a rule with that, it's very simple. When that's what happens, it just falls straight down, boom, no big deal. But the rule also says if that lands 8 feet further than the box, it's a clean get out.
Even though I broke the barrier?
Even you broke the pigtail.
Pigtail.
But what usually happens, and this is a great rule, it could catch after you got out on the breast collar of the horse.
I see.
Wrap around the horse's leg. That means you pushed it really hard.
Yeah.
And then it would break away and throw it away, farther away from the chute.
Okay.
So that's...
If it's 8 feet away from the front of the chute, right, then it's not considered broken.
Correct.
Have you seen this in real life?
Oh, yeah, many times.
Many times.
If you ever, not many times, but I've seen it 10, 15 times.
Really?
Maybe 50 times in my life.
Really?
Because I've been doing it a long time, old guy.
Yeah.
But if you see the judges grab a tape measure and go out and they'll measure to where that pigtail is away from the chute. You know, sometimes it's far enough away you don't have to even worry about it, but you know.
I'll be darned. Did not know that. And if I break the barrier, which means I fail to give the head start to the calf or the steer, I'm assessed a 10-second penalty.
Correct.
Okay. So if I need to be a 4 flat or better in the steer wrestling to place in the round, remember it's top 6, I believe, in the money. If anything plus 10, odds are I'm out.
And you know, especially like at Vegas, plus 10, you're out. But if you're not thinking you're a plus 10, you're still probably out because you got to run at it so hard.
Yeah.
To get, it's such a fine line because everybody's so good. If you don't try, you know, if you give that steer an extra foot from what the barrier is, you're late and you're not going to do good. So, you know, when you see these steer wrestlers or calf ropers, when they're done, look back because they didn't know whether they got out or not. And that shows the competitiveness of what it is. You know, you worry about it later. Nothing you can do it after you're out there. Do your job, finish it, and see what happens.
Okay. Yep. Okay. All right. And so let's talk about flagging the steer. So I've got a hazer. Remember, he's going to be on my right-hand side to our listeners. We've got the steer between me, the dogger, the bulldogger, and the hazer. Hazer's job is to keep that steer running in a straight line. My job is to get to that steer as quickly as I can, drop down, catch a horn, probably go to his nose, throw him down, right? Bulldog him.
Yep.
And what's the rule book say about when the flagman, and he's out on horseback.
Correct.
The judge is right out there where he can see everything very clearly.
Yeah. And there's several rules in this. To get the flag, the steer has to be all 4 feet in the same direction.
Okay.
And it's the head. If the steer gets knocked down and he just rolls over, you have to let him get up and rethrow him.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
You can't hit him and knock him down and then grab his nose and throw him.
I see.
He's got to be.
Yeah. He's got to be up before you can throw it.
Correct.
Okay.
If you leave it there, it's no time.
Okay.
And also, you have to have a hand on the steer when you throw him. So sometimes you think, oh, that's crazy. You know, of course they're going to have a hand on the steer. Well, if a steer's coming around really fast and you throw him and he gets away from you, if he flies out away from you, you could not have a hand on him.
I see.
And there was a huge controversy with Branquinho, Luke Branquinho.
Yeah, yeah.
He was going for a world championship, and he threw the steer. And when he threw him way away from him. And they flagged him out, so he didn't have a hand on him. Well, when you watch the video, he did.
Okay.
His hand, just one hand was touching it when he threw him. So he probably lost a world championship because of that.
Okay.
And therefore, I am saying right here, right now, that the PRCA needs to get their stuff together and get instant replay. People go all year long in a stupid call. It's a judgment call.
Sure.
But if they would have had instant replay, he'd have probably been another world champion that year.
You bet.
And that's only fair. You don't want to win by not being right, and you don't want to lose by not being right.
Right. Yeah, good point. So the flagman's gonna drop his flag. There's actually a timer sitting in the announcer's booth, and when does she start the watch, and when does she stop the watch?
Okay, there's 2 timers.
Okay, yep.
And there is a flag on the front of the barrier.
Okay.
When that breaks.
When it moves.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's when they start their watch.
Okay.
And when the judge drops his flag, that's when they stop it.
Okay.
Then they add both times together and divide it by 2.
And average it.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. That makes sense. That makes perfect sense. And At the NFR, it's all by eye and all by hand, the timing.
Yes.
Okay. Are we hearing anything different that might be changing over time?
Never heard anything.
Never.
And I don't know how you could, because how you going to get start it? I'm sure they could make it start perfectly.
Yeah.
But stopping it, that's kind of
yeah.
So,
but if and I just think of all the things, boy, your flagman's got to be super consistent.
Super consistent, and they usually are.
Yeah.
If there's a lag underneath them, they don't get a flag until that's what they're looking for.
Yeah.
And when I judged and flagged a little bit, I didn't like it, but when I did, I was always very kind of slow.
Okay.
Because it was like, okay, it's good.
Okay.
And as long as you did that on every one, it would make a difference.
Cares? You bet. Yeah. As long as you're consistent.
And it's hard to do that when somebody's really making a heck of a fast run, and then it's like, oh, wow.
Yeah.
But, okay, they're good.
And I mean, that's what this is going to be, right? You're going to have 15 guys running so incredibly hard that to be consistent is so important, because you could see a sub 4-second run at the NFR.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
All the time.
All the time.
Yeah. Probably every round there will be a sub 4 second.
And we're a tenth, and they just go to tenths of seconds.
Right.
Right? So if I'm a 3.7 and you're 3.7, we tie.
Correct.
Okay. Where a tenth of a second makes a difference between winning first or winning second. In some cases, winning first or winning fourth, because you had 3 people come out in that 3.7 second run. That's just got to be nerve-wracking, and it's just got to be super, super, super consistent.
And I'd like to see them go to hundreds.
Yeah.
Because there is so many that are so close, that would split it up a little better.
Yeah.
But you're talking hundreds of a second, too. If you ever played the stopwatch game and tried to hit it, it's hard to do it under 7/100ths of a second.
Oh, for sure. Absolutely.
I got it down to 4, but it was
did
almost
you
like,
really?
how the heck did you do it?
Yeah, do it again.
Get close again.
Yeah, do it again. Yeah. Try to repeat that. And your judges, your pro Rode officials are you're going to see a pro Rode official back at the barrier. He's going to be on the ground.
Yeah.
He's going to be monitoring that barrier. He's going to know very quickly if something's broke. And then you've got your other official up on horseback in a position where he can see the throw, see all 4 legs, and and drop the flag when it's appropriate.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Let's move to team roping. So this is the only event in sport of rodeo where there's a team. Wrestling, it takes a team to get it done, meaning a hazer. But in team roping, you are running for 2 different world championships. If I'm a header, describe what a header is, Sam.
Well, the header is the guy behind the barrier again, and he's kind of the quarterback of the whole thing, sets it all up. He has to rope the horns, the half head, or the whole head. That's the only 3 legal catches.
Okay.
In the head and side. And then he turns the steer off, hopefully without whipping real bad in the back end, and it hops off where the heeler has good timing to rope the back feet of the steer.
Okay. Now, when the header makes the catch, the rope is not attached to the saddle in any way at that point. I mean, he literally steps up on his horse with his entire lariat.
Correct.
And after he makes a catch, he will dally off around the saddle horn, depending on where that steer is in relationship to his horse.
Right. Yeah, and it's called dally team roping for a reason, because you have to rope it and dally around the horn and turn the steer off, and the heeler has to come in, rope hopefully both back feet, and then he has to dally off. They have to turn and face each other in an L or better position.
Okay.
To get the flag.
So the ropers, after I catch the head, I'm going to turn around and face you. After you make the catch with the heels, you're going to tighten him up. You're going to be facing me. So we're facing each other with the steer in between us, more or less to that L position you talked about. And we're going to stretch that steer just a little bit.
Yeah, you're going to stretch the steer out for doctoring or branding is basically the thing. Now, everything was really close in there, Doug, but the header ropes the steer, turns off, and then the heeler ropes the heels. And the header does not turn until it comes tight on the rope.
Okay.
Because if he does, the leg will drop out.
I see.
You know, if he turns too quick, something's going to get loose instead of get tight.
So talking about a leg dropping out, thanks for that correction of the positioning of the header. What happens if I only catch one leg?
It's a 5-second penalty.
5 seconds.
Yeah, so you can have a total of 15-second penalties in the team roping.
Right.
10-second barrier, 5-second leg.
Okay. And dallying, these guys wear gloves.
Some do, some don't.
Some do, some don't. You've team roped a bit. Potential injuries, getting thumbs and fingers in between that rope and that saddle horn?
Yeah. It happens to quite a bit. You don't hear of it like you used to because I think everybody now has worked at it so hard. When I was down at Speedy Williams' house in Florida, they had a thing, and I said, "What is that?" And they made a belt with a little wood ping and a saddle horn on the front that you could run away and practice dallying. A guy would take the rope and pull it away, and they'd just practice dallying without worrying about happening. And then I seen later on that they had them for sale at one of the stores that made it look like the front of the saddle and a horn. And you had a belt and you tightened it up and you practiced dallying.
Okay. And if I'm a team roper, can I usually, good team ropers, do I have a specialty, or can I, meaning am I typically a header or typically a heeler?
You know, I thought it was typically you did one or the other, and when I was growing up, I never wanted to heel because I didn't want to mess my head up. It's two different swings. It's completely different.
Is it?
Completely different.
Okay.
But these guys, a lot of them switch ends. They are just so talented. They can move around, and it doesn't matter to them. You know,
Yeah.
When they back in the box, their mind goes to heading, or they back in the box, their mind goes to heeling, and they're very good at both.
You bet. And the money at a rodeo like Attica, I can enter as a team roper. I can enter twice.
In some associations.
Okay.
In the PRCA, you cannot.
You cannot.
No.
Okay.
You can only enter once.
Okay.
A lot of the associations you can enter twice, but you either have to change partners or switch ends.
Switch ends, which means if you and I are going to rope together, I say first run I'll be the header, you be the heeler. Second run we're going to switch positions, switch ends.
Correct.
You're going to be the header. I'm going to be the heeler.
And somebody else is going to pocket all the money.
And probably so. Probably so. Have you seen, as you bring that up, have you ever seen that happen in real life where two guys switch position and they happen to win first and second?
Yes.
Or trading partners and win first and second?
Yes, quite often.
Quite
often. They're really good. They.
Okay. Okay, on the team roping. Is there anything else we missed on the team?
There's a rule in there.
Yeah.
Boy, we're coming up with little rules all over the place. There's a rule in there called the crossfire rule.
Crossfire.
Okay. That means the header ropes a steer, and he has to be in tow behind the heading horse before the heeler can rope the feet. So, if the header ropes a steer and dallies, and the heeler comes in and ropes it before it is turned completely off and in tow, that's a no time.
That's a no time.
That's
called a crossfire.
Called a crossfire. Very judgment.
Will we see that the NFR? These guys are beyond that.
No.
You
because the pressure is so good,
and they're moving so fast.
Yeah, and it's the judge.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
They got somebody last year, I remember, and
really,
of course, I had the thing of watching it slow down and all this stuff. We can all say the judges are what they are.
Yeah.
But it's a tough deal.
Yeah.
And you could very well see the crossfire. And now, a couple things I wanted to say, like the WCRA, which is another, it's not association, but a group of investors or something investing into rodeo. I really don't know, but they do not have a crossfire rule.
Okay.
You can do that.
Okay.
Going back to the rough stock, your mark out rule is not a disqualification. It's a 5-second penalty. 5
points.
5 point penalty.
Okay. Okay.
And a broken barrier is a 5-second penalty
Not
instead
10.
of 10.
Okay. So what do you think of that? What do you think of the +5 for the bronc riding, for the horse ridings?
You know, I wish if they're not going to have instant replay where you can do it, they'd do away with that because it is so controversial.
Okay.
I was old school. You got to mark them out. You got to do this.
You bet.
But when I watched somebody lose the world they said he missed them out and there wasn't no way.
Yeah.
You know, they worked their whole year to get where, their whole life, not just their whole year to get there.
Yeah.
And they got beat by a bad judgment call.
A bad judgment call. And I know the IPRA, we've talked about the International Finals Rodeo in January. For the first time ever, is going to have the instant recall replay, right?
Yeah.
So where I can, the way I'm understanding when we talk to Dale, I can, if they miss me out, I can walk over and hit a button or request that they do a replay.
Yes, then I don't, I think it's somewhat just like the PBR where they can go. It might cost them $500 if they hit the button and lose, which anybody's going to spend $500 if your world championship's on the line.
You bet.
So I think it will carry on to the next level. The IRA is a step ahead, just trying to help it out, and it's such a great idea.
You bet.
You know, if it doesn't work, it can't hurt you.
Right. Right.
If they can't get a inconclusive decision or whatever, it can't hurt you.
Yep.
It can just, all it can do is either help you or stay the same.
You bet. You bet. No, I'm excited. When we go down, I'm excited to see this. I think it's great. I think it's absolutely great. You've shared enough stories. You got bucked off a horse, or they no-scored you on a horse that you had done everything right, but you were in a position where the judge said, no, you're bucked off. Even though you had a hold of the bronc rein, you had your feet in the pedals, you had everything you needed, you weren't touching the horse, you should have gotten a qualified ride. And on that instant replay, that instant recall replay, it would have proved that right, that you would have said.
I would have won the truck and won the world.
I think you'd
Simple as that,
Yeah, yeah.
Not that I still think about it, but
no. You think you'd still have that truck? What was that truck? What year was that?
I wouldn't still have the truck. I think it was 85.
You don't think you'd still have?
Because I know me.
Yeah.
Now, I would still have the truck.
Yeah.
But back then, no.
You'd use it up. It'd be used
been
up.
burned up. And,
yeah.
Now,
Yeah. Okay.
How we learn.
How we learn, for sure. Then the final timed event is going to be tie-down calf roping, right? Tie-down roping. Draws, same thing. We've got the barrier, same barrier rules. However, the calf roper is going to line up where the dogger lined up, and the team roper that set the pace lines up to the left of the livestock, to the left of the steer. In the calf roping, you're going to see the calf roper line up on the right-hand side of the calf. So the calf's going to be to his left side.
Correct.
Right? He's going to back in the box. They're going to stretch the timed event barrier, all the same rules, same way of tripping the barrier, same way of breaking the barrier. What else?
It's all the same, the barrier situation. And these guys are so fast now and so good that how they handle their slack is so important. If they can just hold it and stand out there a little bit and take a lot of the jerk off the calf and take that in their own arm, and it does two things. It spins the calf around. He's still standing when they get there, because if he's not standing, they have to get him up. Cost you time. And it slings you down the rope towards the calf. So now instead of 5 feet in front of the horse, you're 10 feet in front of the horse.
Okay.
And then you're quicker that way too. They have what they call the jerk down rule.
Good rule.
Fantastic.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah, if we want calf roping, it's, they're little babies, and
Mm-hmm.
you want to keep them on their feet and be fast, but sometimes you miss your slack, sometimes things happen, and it depends on the ground rule, whether you're disqualified or what happens. Calgary has gone a step farther, and I really like it. And actually, all of Canada, I think, has gone to this. If you knock them off their feet, it's a no time.
In any way, shape, or form?
Any way, shape, or form.
Okay.
And 99% is intentional or whatever. Unintentional, I'm sorry.
Right.
Unintentional.
Right.
And it's a no time. And also, they're kind of ahead of us in that area. And the calves have to be worked a lot different and better and be more prepared for when you do that because it's harder for the contestants to do that. And also in the steer wrestling, up in Canada, they cannot dog fall. If they dog fall, if they don't kick straight out, it's a no time.
When they flank the calf down?
No. The steer wrestling.
Oh, steer wrestling.
Yeah.
Oh.
That means if a steer would fall on the wrong side.
Yeah.
Where you'd have to roll them back over. They say it's undue pressure on the cattle. It's a no time.
No time in Canada.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Another good rule, because usually you won't win any money and you're fighting with them.
Yeah. So after I make the catch, and you're spot on with these rules. I'm excited that Canada is leading the way that way. After I make the catch, you're going to see me bail off on the right-hand side of my horse, typically. So I don't have to get off on the correct side, which is typically the left side, getting on and off of a horse. And the reason for that is I don't want to duck under that rope. I want to be able to get there as quickly as possible, correct?
Takes time.
Takes time.
Yeah. And like my son Colton, he roped calves, and he was left-handed.
Yeah.
And we should have broke his hand and made him rope right-handed when he was young.
Okay.
But and we didn't know enough about it.
Yeah. Yeah.
We got educated through the years with
Yeah.
it, and he roped very well left-handed.
Yeah.
But by the time he stepped off the left side, ducked under the rope, he was a second longer than what everybody else was. So now he went to tying left-handed.
Okay.
So he gets off the left side.
Stays on the left side.
Stays on the left
Flanks on the left
side.
side.
Flanks on the left side.
Holy cow.
And
he pick up that second in average?
He didn't stick with it competitively long enough to see how much better he got. I think it'd have to be confusing.
Yeah.
Really confusing.
Yeah.
And the other thing is the calf wasn't used to being tied on that side, so a lot of times they would fight more.
Okay.
So it was 2 strikes against you.
And speaking of fighting, the calves, well, they're going to struggle when you put what's called the piggin string.
Correct.
Maybe describe that piggin string.
Piggin string is a smaller rope, maybe 1/4 inch in diameter or something that's probably 6 feet long, and that's what you wrap the legs up with. The legs have to be crossed. Any 3 legs tied together have to be crossed, and they normally put 2 wraps around the legs and then put what they call a hooey, which pull it back through itself.
Like a knot.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then they have to stay tied for 6 seconds.
After the cowboy gets back on the horse?
Yeah, the cowboy gets on the horse and puts slack in the rope.
Okay.
Then it's 6 seconds the calf has to be stayed tied.
Okay.
So, and I'm sure at the NFR you'll see a lot of guys, if they got a good calf, do 1 wrap.
Yeah.
And get on the horse and pray.
Yep.
If the calf doesn't fight, they're good. If he fights, it's probably 50-50 shot.
Okay.
Because if it's good, it'll hold. But if not, if they really fight, it'll loosen up and they'll kick free.
Yeah. So with the calf roping, and this is the stuff that always impressed me about that event, I mean, the skill of the horse is crazy.
Any timed event, the horsepower is they say it's 75%. Well, that's crazy.
Yeah,
it is 99%.
Is it really? Okay.
You got to have talent to do this, but at that level, people, there's always somebody that stands out there, and it's drawing the right animal. That is the other equation. But these horses, they're, if you got the right horse with the right, the reason these guys are world champions year after year, it's their horsepower.
Yeah, yeah.
And if you don't have horsepower, you might as well stay home, and it doesn't matter what size rodeo it is. Yeah. It takes good horsepower to win.
Yeah, and most calf ropers, I know we see in the steer wrestling that it's not unusual for one or two teams to mount up a bunch of cowboys, right? And I pay mount money.
Right.
Do you see that much in the calf roping?
No.
No.
I'm not saying you don't see it at all, but you don't see it much because it's you got a good horse, you want him for yourself.
Yeah.
And if you got to know the feel of it, it's, there's guys that can jump on and ride any horse and rope off any horse, but it takes, you got to have communication between you and the horse, and especially stopping and backing up. It's not something that just happens the first run. You can get by, but you want your own horse. When I first took, where'd we go, to New Mexico with Colton, we rode other horses, and there I said, or Kerry actually said to me first, we're taking his horse next year, and I said, I agree. It does, and I was always the mentality, well, if you can do it, you can do it.
Right.
But I came back with a different attitude from there.
Okay. And then one other rule, you talk about the horse backing up. So after you make the catch, you want to put the brakes on, right? And you want just the right amount of tension there. That horse cannot pull on that calf and drag that calf at all, or they're going to flag you out, right?
Well, no, not necessarily. There's usually a limit,
Okay.
And I don't know what that is, and there can be ground rules to change it, so I'm not going to say what I think it is. But you don't want them to drag the calf, because then that calf will strain and kick. So you want it to be tight, but not pulling the calf.
Right.
You want his head to be just a little bit off the ground.
Yep.
It's such, you just think about it. You want this horse to stop, back up, and keep that calf's head off the ground, just enough tension where you can get this done.
Yep. And if you ever watch a roping, and you will see them at some of these rodeos, somebody will catch and that horse doesn't work. Doesn't put any tension on that rope. And man, that calf, or that cowboy, I should say, has to work so hard just to catch the calf.
Yeah. And when the horse walks up and says, "Oh, are you doing it right? Let me look here."
Looks over your shoulder. Yeah.
It's not a good day.
Not a good day. You need to back up. Anything we've covered on, or anything we've missed, I should say, in the tie down roping?
No. I'm just trying to think of another rule that will disqualify you, but I can't think of anything that.
And we talk about right-hand ropers getting off on the right-hand side. I do believe, trivia, if we go look at the history, Roy Cooper, who is Tough Cooper's dad,
right,
was the first one to do that, if I'm not mistaken. Well, everybody else prior to that was getting off on the left-hand side, ducking under the rope, and he figured out, no, I can save time, bail off on the right-hand side and go. Now, that's just what I've heard over the years.
And I've heard the same thing.
Okay.
He might not have been the first, but he was probably the first to perfect it.
Right.
And
first put it in the arena, right? In the NFR, maybe.
And then everybody did it for, what was that? Probably 50 years ago. He started that trend.
Yeah.
And then it went on to everybody doing it. There was a calf roper that came up, several-time world champion in the IRA, that roped left-handed and tied right-handed.
What was his name? Do you remember?
Tom Walker.
Tom Walker. Okay.
He outstanding roper. Then he went on to make the NFR, roping left-handed, ducking under the rope, and tying the calves when everybody else was getting off the right. So if he would have been right-handed or tied left, it's hard to tell how good he was.
Yeah.
Because you're almost losing a second when you duck. It sounds crazy, but you're almost losing a second ducking under that rope.
So what kind of times, and I know the barrier is shorter because the arena is shorter, what kind of calf roping times might we see?
Well, it's going to take an 8 to place in the top 6.
Just an 8.
Well, some rounds it'll take a 7. Depends on the calf.
Okay.
Somebody is going to be in the
8
6s.
seconds. No, let me just back up. I'm sitting from the time I nod my head. The watch starts when I get to the barrier. The stopwatch starts.
Yeah.
I've got to track the calf, catch the calf, dismount, flank the calf, tie the calf, what they call groundwork, tie the calf, throw my hands in the air. That's when the stopwatch is going to stop. And I got to do all that in 8 seconds or 7 seconds or less just to be in the money.
Yeah, probably 8 seconds to be in the money.
Okay.
7 to get a win on some rounds.
Okay.
And it will take a 6-second run somewhere through the weekend.
You will see a sub. You will see a sub 7 second run.
I would put money on it.
Okay.
Maybe not the ranch, but I would put money on it.
Yeah. I'll be darned. You realize when I just described it, what he had to do in 7 seconds probably took me 12 seconds to describe.
Say 15 probably.
Yeah, probably so. Yeah. Crazy how, and we talk about muscle memory and all this stuff happening. You can't think all the pieces through and to get it done in 7 or 8 seconds.
It's got to be reaction. Reaction.
Yeah. All right, then the final event we want to get to is the Cowgirl barrel racing. It is a timed event. I shouldn't say it's not a timed event. It is a timed event. We got 3 barrels that are going to be set up, and you're going to run what is called a cloverleaf pattern. So what that means is there's 2 barrels, one on each side as you run in. There's 1 barrel on the very far end of the arena. They're set back away from the arena wall. They're going to be set very specifically in their positions. So if I were to come in and knock a barrel over, they can put that barrel in exactly where it needs to go so that when you run next, you're going to run the exact same pattern as what I just ran. So if I start to the right-hand barrel first, I take that clockwise. I then go to the left-hand barrel across the way, and I'm going to run that counterclockwise. And then I'm going to run up to the 3rd barrel, and I'm going to do another counterclockwise around that in the left-hand direction. And I'm going to run out. Now, no flags, no timers, meaning no people. It's going to be set up with the eyes. I know backup. They're going to be set.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
But all electronic and to the thousands?
Seconds, I think. Not to the thousands, 100s.
So it's going to be a 15.23, something like that? Yeah. Okay. So, that would be to the hundreds.
Yeah. And, there's a marker in the ground, rope usually, and they put the center of the barrel over that.
Okay.
And in all 3 spots. So it's perfectly precise, no. Some associations have it on the outside, so you can pull it up right.
I see.
Exactly perfect. The PRCA, it's in the center. Well, PRCA, the WPRA, I'm sorry.
Okay.
It's by a different sanctioning body.
Even though they're running at a PRCA National Finals Rodeo, the Women's Pro Rodeo Association, right?
Is the sanctioning body.
Is the sanctioning body. So the PRCA itself does not offer up Cowgirl barrel racing.
Correct. If you do a PRCA rodeo, you do not have to have barrel racing.
Okay.
But, it's precise, and it is with electric eye, and starts when you run through it, stops when you run back through it. Very technical, and needs to be, because they're within 1/100th of a second all the time.
And if I knock over a barrel?
5-second penalty.
If I knock over 2?
10-second penalty.
So 5 a barrel. So exactly. I could go in and wipe out all the barrels and have plus 15 no matter how fast I ran.
Yeah.
Okay.
And if you go off pattern, it's a no time. So for some reason the horse stops and goes around the barrel the wrong way, or something freaky happens. It's a no time.
Okay. And you'll see they've got helpers out there that rake after every run.
Yes.
Right? Try to keep the ground in as good a condition. How do they determine which Cowgirl is going to run first, second, and third?
I don't know.
Okay.
It is not a random draw at first. There might be a couple rounds it is.
Okay.
I think the first go-round starts with the winning girl.
Okay.
Then after a few rounds, it might start with in the middle of the pack, and then at the bottom of the pack.
Okay.
I'm not sure how that works, but there is a set way to do it.
Okay. And that matters what position I run. In theory, once the ground is worked up right before the barrel racing, I'm running on the best ground I can run on at that point?
That is
the
theory, and 90% true.
Okay.
As it goes on, the more girls, the deeper the ground gets, the harder it is for the horses to get out of it. That's precise that, if that takes 1/100 or a 1/10 of a second off, you've cost you money. So, and I'm kind of curious. They made a rule that they have to work the ground like after so many.
They work it up. So during TV commercial,
I don't. I'm curious to see what they do at the NFR.
Okay.
If they work the ground.
Okay.
Or not.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's like, say there's 10 girls, they have to do it every 5. Or if there's 12, they might have to do it every 6.
Okay.
And there's 15, so they might have to do it after 7.
So if I go to Benton and I watch the Cowgirl barrel racing, they run in the order they entered?
It's a lot more difficult than that, because you have like a bet in different days, different performances, how you get up. So, and most of that's done computerly. So
it is. Okay.
They might put you in. They draw it through the computer when you run.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right. What else do we need to cover on the Cowgirl barrel racing? Anything you can think of?
No.
Now, we hope that you found our descriptions useful as you watch your rodeo events in 2024. We released this just a few days before we go back on the road, BTC on the road again, as we head to Guthrie, Oklahoma to the International Finals Rodeo. I hope you watch it. I hope you attend it. And I'm hoping that some of our descriptions will be helpful as you watch that rodeo. Now, if you enjoyed our conversation, and I hope you did, and if you do, please share it with your friends. Word-of-mouth advertising has really helped us grow. If you like something in one of our shows, tell somebody about it. It's all about spreading the word. Now, if you have any questions or comments about this episode, we did our best, but please let us know. Leave us your comments on our Facebook page. You can find us on Facebook at Beyond the Chutes. Now, while we were at the Rawhide Ranch, Sam and I recorded with some great people, and the Rawhide Ranch recordings will be coming to you over the next few weeks. To make your listening easier, you can find us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts. You can find us on YouTube, all the major streaming platforms. All you got to do is search for Beyond the Chutes and follow us. And we want to say thank you to ParaSight Systems for their support of our podcast. They've been along for this ride, and we so much appreciate everything they do. They help BTC get on the road and keep moving. And ParaSight System is a push-button parasitic diagnostic system for pasture animals, your horses, your cattle, your goat, sheep, and chickens. And now for your companion animals, your dogs and your cats. You can find them at ParaSightSystems.com. And remember, we've got a coupon. I hope you use it. BTC023 for ParaSight Systems, and you will get 50% off your test kits. We want to remind you, let's test before we treat. Let's go hunting with the right kind of rifle and be very specific about what we're looking for. You can find them at ParaSightSystems.com. This is Beyond the Chutes. I was with Sam Swearingen for this episode. Until next time, this is Doug Simcox. Thank you for listening.